From the dawn of time, our ancestors have left us with the tales. Stories which speak of things that they have seen and lived alongside by, feared, respected, and even looked to some of them as godlike. Modern man refers to such things as spirits, extraterrestrials, demons, cryptids, creatures, and entities of all kinds, and so much more. These things and tales are now referred by most as myths and legends. But there are those of us that know what our ancestors spoke of was the truth. Those of us that have become obsessed in searching for answers and finding out the truth are here. We need the truth. This search brings us into the realm of the unexplained and unknown. It brings us on the trail. The search for living legends. Please join J.R. and I on the quest, and welcome to the search.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to On the Trail, the search for living legends. I'm here tonight. We've got a pretty good episode planned for y'all. Here with co-host J.R. Kitchen. J.R., how you doing, sir?
I'm awfully well, sir. How are you?
I'm excellent tonight, actually. Glad to be here once again.
Good, man.
And we've got Shawn Wilson on also, a good friend of ours, awesome researcher, hell of a guy. Shawn is actually one of our co-hosts on Notes in the Field, and you're going to see a lot more of Shawn on this show also. He's going to be joining J.R. and I quite a bit. Anyway, Shawn had a very... Oh, sorry about it. Shawn, how have you been, by the way?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
But anyway, Shawn had a pretty, he refers to as a disturbing encounter with a Sasquatch a while back in his area. I'm not going to say much more than that. That's his place to mention that stuff, but let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So Shawn, why don't you give us a little background on yourself and, what led to what went on before the sighting that day, what led up to it, what happened afterward, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I've been hunting this property, this farm down by Douglas, Nebraska for 16 years now. And, same place every year and pattern the animals. I got tree stands all over the place and stuff, but I'd heard weird stuff down there before, but I never thought anything about it, And a few years ago, 4 or 5 years, probably closer to 5 years ago now, I got screamed at, man, and it was crazy. It scared the shit out of me. So I tried to figure out the sound. I went and listened online to bobcats and coyotes and owls and screech out and anything I could think of that might be in the area. I couldn't find anything that matched that sound.
Right.
But anyway, I put that out of my head and I just, I got down from my tree and I got the hell out of there that night because it freaked me out. But I went back and I just kind of put it out of my head and didn't think about it too much. But last year, early in the season, but actually before hunting season started, I went down there to build a little bridge over this washout so I could get to one of my tree stands without going up and disturbing a bedding area. So I go down there and I'm carrying wood and stuff out to the field, out through this cornfield into the trees, and I'm walking along, and on my left-hand side I see this footprint, man. It was huge. It had to be close to 20 inches, between 18 and 20 inches, and I didn't think to put my foot next to it, but I did take a picture of it.
Yeah, a lot of the times we get so shocked and excited when we see stuff like that. We just forget to do it.
Right.
It's
Well,
common.
before then, I had no belief in Bigfoot at all.
So you were a total skeptic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I had heard some weird noises and stuff, so I started YouTube and stuff. So I was kind of checking. I was listening to the show Will used to be on, and some other shows and things like that, and thinking maybe, maybe. But no, well, that was after the footprint really is when I started looking into that stuff. So there's that footprint, freaks me out, but I go put my camera up, check the stand, it's good, and I walk around to the other one. There's one about 100 yards to the south,
Right.
and it's actually down in a ditch. And up the tree, I sit level with the field, so I got to stay real still in this particular stand. But coming up to that one, there's another footprint. The other one was a left footprint. This was a right footprint. It was much, much smaller, probably 7 or 8 inches.
So a different creature, juvenile, sounds like.
Yeah. So I see that, and I take a picture of that too, and I'm just thinking, there's some giant-footed farmer out here, and he's got his redneck kid, and they're walking around with no shoes on. This is weird. So I go over to my tree, this particular tree. I climb up in it, and the bark has been ripped off this tree in 2 strips, as far up as you can reach, standing on the back of the chair in the tree stand. It's a ladder stand, and I'm thinking, what the hell? This is weird. And then it stops, and I had I had my tree stand way up high in this years and years ago, so there's rebar sticking out of the left side of the tree that's not quite grown over yet. This is a cottonwood tree. And it's hardy, it's thick, it's healthy. This bark is on there solid, I mean, you can't just peel this stuff off. But it's ripped off in about 4-inch strips, 2 strips, and then it stops, and then up about 10 feet, it goes on again for maybe another 10 feet. It's ripped off on one side. So it looks like an animal climbed up, was hanging onto that rebar on the left side and peeling the bark off with its right hand.
That's interesting.
All this bark is fresh, and it's sitting on my seat and around the bottom of the tree, and the tree is white underneath. It's wet and it's white, so it just happened. Like literally within a day or two, it had just happened. So after that, I'm just kind of freaked out, and I start checking into the Bigfoot stuff and everything else, listening to shows and all that. Later on in the year, though, this is the next thing that happened. I'm noticing weird things. I'm looking for stuff now because I've been listening to shows and stuff, and there's a tree break, it's a twist break, and it's 10 yards from this other tree stand that's way on the other side of the property. And there's a small tree that's just to my left. This tree has a chunk ripped off of it and wedged into the crook of the tree, and it makes a T.
Like that kind of like that picture I showed you.
Yeah.
With those T's. Yep.
And the more I look, there are T's all over the place down there. Different properties. I see them all over the place. And I mean, big ones you can hang off one side.
Yeah.
You jump up and hang off. And they're all, 10, 12 feet up in the air. This particular one was not, though. This one is down low.
Okay.
And it's small, but it would still take some serious force to rip the branch off and do what it did. You'd have to be, a human couldn't do it. No way.
Well, not only that, but when you think about it, to put shit together, well, pardon my language, to put stuff together like that, there's got to be knowledge of geometry and, and stuff like that to make that stuff, when a lot of the times when they'll push these trees over, they'll stick. The part that they push over will stay at a 90-degree angle,
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's got to be there's knowledge there of mathematics or something. I don't know. I haven't figured it out, but there's something we're missing.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead, Shawn. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No, that's all right, man. All right, so that happens, and I continue to hunt and hunt and hunt. I'm not seeing anything. It's been a pretty bad year, but so it's the last day before rifle season kicks in, and I'm down this particular property. I can only bow hunt, and the property owner has a friend that comes on during rifle season. So I got to get out of there. Anyway, I tried to get down there the last night, and I'm running late. At this point, it's getting dark around 5:30. You know, it's just a bust. So I get down there. I know I'm not going to be able to walk down to that tree stand and not get busted if anything's in there. So I decided to sit in my truck and just kind of glass the field and see if I can pattern what they're doing, because, you know, this guy's going to be gone in 10 days. If he doesn't take the big one, maybe I'll have a shot at it.
Yeah.
I had kind of planned on coming back. So I just thought I'd pattern the deer and see if I could figure out which way they were going, because I wasn't seeing a lot on my cameras either. Anyway, I'm glassing up and down the field. I'm playing with Facebook on my phone. I'm listening to the radio and up and down and looking all over the place. And then I come up the property divide with my binoculars, and the field that there's a kind of a slope, and there's tall grass and bushes that divide one field from the other. It's the property line, and there used to be a barbed wire fence there, but it's gone.
Right.
Anyway, I come glassing up, and all of a sudden I see this thing, and so I dial in my binoculars, and I'm like, holy shit, there it is. And you know, I put the binoculars down, and I looked without the binoculars, and I could still see it, but I couldn't see it, all the details and stuff. So I put the binoculars back up, and I'm on this thing for, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds or something. I'm studying it, and I'm looking at this thing, and it's got, I'll kind of describe what I saw. It's behind a bush, but the bush doesn't have any leaves, so you can see it really well.
Right.
And the way I was parked at a slant. When I was looking at my field, I'm looking out my side window, but when I'm looking at this tree line and where this thing was, I'm looking through my windshield. So I believe that the sun was hitting the windshield and creating a glare, so it could not see me and tell that I was looking at it, or I don't think it would have gave me that opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
So I'm looking at this thing, and I notice it's got a conical head. It's pointy, and it's hair. It's not fur. The forehead is pretty big, and the forehead didn't have a lot of hair on it. It's real wrinkly, like gorilla skin.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, all around the cheeks, it's like gorilla skin, but it's not black. It's like dark charcoal gray.
Right.
The nose on this thing looked like, gosh darn, there's a basket. Scottie Pippen. Looked like Scottie Pippen's nose.
Okay.
Get it real wide and flat, you know, but a little bit pointy at the end. And then the eyes were big, far apart, you know, like normal, but they were really big and black. I saw no whites to the eyes whatsoever, and I think that they might just have really big, dark brown eyes, and that's why we don't see that. But maybe they're black. I don't know. But it looked soulless, man. This thing didn't look like it. It looked like it was weird. It was a blank, soulless stare, man, and it freaked me out. So.
Yep. You got that right.
Another thing to mention, though, is the distance between the nose and the top lip is much further than ours. It's like we have 1 finger length between our nose and our top. This thing had like 3, so there's quite a gap.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, let me ask you a question about the mouth.
Yeah.
I know, you know, with the female I had in the encounter with, her mouth was very wide, with thinner lips, almost. I'm not gonna say ear to ear because it wasn't. That's kind of, you know, that's just an exaggeration, but it was pretty damn wide, almost like it could have opened. She could have opened her mouth up and bit the top of my head off. If she wanted to. You know, I mean, like, how wide was the mouth on this thing?
Just like you described, it was really wide.
Yeah.
At least twice as wide as ours, if not more.
Right.
Probably more, like to the center of each cheek.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
Right.
And that's where it cut off. I couldn't see anything else below that. So at that point, it blinked, man. When this thing blinked, that's when the reality of what I was looking at was a living animal, and it was a Bigfoot, and it's in front of me, and that's what I've been hearing. And I'm not going to be able to hunt anymore. I'm not going to be able to bring my kids down here anymore. And I got real emotional. I was like scared and pissed off, and you know. So I decided I was going to jump this thing up and make it run. I'm in the field at this point, just off the road. This thing's not more than 30 yards, possibly 40, more like 30 though, I think. in the bush right there in front of me. So I turn my pickup on and I start driving towards it. And I probably only get 10 feet before I got cold feet and stopped my truck and backed up to where I was. And I put the binoculars up again, and it was gone. So yeah, I got scared. I thought, okay, I'm by myself. I've got a 9mm and I've got a crossbow. And if this is a Bigfoot, it could probably rip my door off. And so
you got that right.
Right. So I backed up and I got out of there, got on the road, and I drove around the corner to the other side, still on the same property, but way on the other side. And I called my, she's my life partner in a way. We parent our kids together and stuff, but we're not, I don't know what we are. We're cool though. We have a
I
good
understand.
thing. Anyway, I call her up and she's got me on speaker and I'm telling her this and I'm actually crying at the same time because I'm just freaked out, and all these emotions are flooding me.
Yeah.
And what I'm really thinking is that I'm not going to be able to hunt anymore. I think that was besides the shock of what I saw, my heart was like, shit, this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Hunting is a huge part of my life. It always has been. So it was really, it really bummed me out. And she didn't believe me, and the kids were laughing at me, and it just really, it bugged me. And she still, to this day, I just don't talk to her about it. And she knows I do this show and stuff, and she knows I'm involved in the JRG and, friends with you guys, and she doesn't give me shit about it or anything, but, she's just not she's one of these, she's going to have to see it to believe it type of person.
Right, which is understandable. There's a lot of people out there like that, but when they do see one, they damn sure become a believer real quick.
Well, yeah, it stepped right off the pages of fantasy into reality.
Into reality, yeah.
Changed my life. Everything's different now. Everything's
absolutely. I know after my first sighting, it took me a couple of years to bring myself back, be able to hunt again. It ruined it for a while.
Well, I notice that when I'm out there now, I'm not focused on the deer. I'm focused on what could be around me. I'm more.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something we can help.
Right.
It's just after seeing these things, it's just you're weary. Yeah. Could they be around? Or are they here? Personally, we've all talked about this. JR, you and I talked about it the other day. I think the second you walk into an area where they are, the second you walk in, they know you're there.
Oh, yeah. You got that right, man. Yeah, they know where you are, pretty much. Now, I've heard encounters about, people surprise them and stuff, but I think that's a pretty rare
Yeah,
condition.
yeah. I definitely think it's pretty rare.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think they know you're there, Now, Shawn, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's a possibility, and I know this is something else we've all discussed in the past, and, usually, do you think that one may have been causing a distraction for another one to get away?
Well, my theory on this one, I went back not the next day, I think 2 days later, if I'm remembering right. I went back down there, and the farmers on the right-hand side, my field was already pulled out. It was corn at one time, and the guys to the right, they were pulling out the beans. So I felt a little bit more comfortable walking around there. I took my AR-15, and I went and I looked, and I found a footprint, and it wasn't very big. It was probably real close to my footprint, so it wasn't. So there's 3 different footprints down there. I've got 3 different animals in that area, or did, for sure. And it didn't strike me as a massive animal, at least the head and stuff. What didn't strike me as huge. So what I really think is that it was a youngster, and it was getting kind of ballsy up close to the road, and it was waiting for deer to cross. I think it was lying in wait. I think I interrupted its hunt.
Yeah, and that's never good. I did that. I did that one night, especially with the juvenile. I did that one night, man, and they chased us right the hell out of there. And Jay, you and I have talked about this too. I mean, I think you interrupted one night also.
That's right. I sure did. Probably more than once.
Yeah, and they'll let you know real quick.
Never know. Yeah. Yep. It's
I
a pretty
mean,
pretty hair-raising experience. I don't think I've ever
it
been
is.
scared in my life. Yeah.
It is. I mean, and for anyone new to the field, I mean, that's one of the worst things you can do is interrupt these things while they're trying to hunt.
Yeah,
They
I
don't
think
mess.
that's
They
why I
don't
got
mess around.
screamed at too when I was
Yeah,
down there. I
probably.
think that's exactly why they were he screamed at me or it, she,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
because I was in their hunting territory. We
Sure.
both hunt the same place.
Sure. Now, since that happened, Shawn? How's the deer? You may have mentioned it already. But how's the deer population been down there ever
Crap,
since this occurrence?
crap. It's no
Yep.
good.
Yep. So I can relate.
Yeah.
Same with me. I used
I
to,
think
used to crack a big buck every year at my primary research spot up in New York. And ever since those sightings, man, I haven't killed anything.
I think the
Nothing.
animals are more skittish, and I think they're being harvested by these Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
The next weekend though, I did go rifle hunting in the same area, about 5 miles to the east, with my buddy Sparky,
Yep.
and I kind of told him about it. And this area, I had gone and set up stuff, some blinds and stuff, but I hadn't really looked around. We went and looked around there, man. There's T's, and there's a couple X's. There's tree
Mm-hmm.
breaks. There's twists. I didn't find any footprints, but I found a lot of blinds. A lot of they'll take a tree and flip it upside down so the root ball's up in the air, and they lean it
Yep.
into another tree so the branches and all kind of spread out. They'll do that with a couple trees and make a blind, I
Yes.
think, so they can sit in there and wait for deer to come by.
It's an ambush blind.
Right. That stuff was everywhere down there, and I told him about it, and he wasn't skeptical. He didn't seem one way or the other about it, you know. But then our first morning down there, before the sun came up, or maybe when it was just starting to come up, we heard we're in a blind, and we're next to a creek, and just to the west of us, maybe 20 yards, not that far at all, this big I mean, it sounded like a 600-pound retarded owl starts
Yeah.
hooting out at us. And man, you know, I've heard a lot of owls before. This wasn't an owl. It wanted to sound like an owl, and he's a believer now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, they always, when they do their mimics, they always sound a little different. You know, I used to get a lot of the coyotes would start yapping, and then one of these things would join in, and you could tell that, you know, it was trying to mimic the coyotes, but it just wasn't getting it down perfect. It was just a little bit different.
yeah. And it
Personally,
chirped out
I think
like a monkey after the call
right.
too. It's
and that's interesting, man. I mean, I personally think these things hunt the coyotes too. I think they eat them.
Yeah.
They hunt them. You know, I think they're very opportunistic. Whatever they can grab, they're gonna grab.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard stories of them killing moose, elk, coyotes, bear, even. You know, especially whitetail and mule.
I'm pretty sure that they've taken my animals from me before, and so where I was rifle hunting with Sparky, there was roadkill the next day. The next morning, some lady hit a small buck. So I took that buck and I drug it down into the trees right on the edge of the field where I thought they might cross through. And
right.
It turned up gone. No trace of it, no blood, no fur. The coyotes didn't get it. There's coyotes all over the place down there. But definitely, you know, they leave a mess when they eat a deer.
Oh, they leave a wicked mess, yeah.
Right, and there was no drag marks either. So this thing was picked up and just taken away from there.
Carried away.
So
yep.
I pretty much fed at least one Bigfoot.
Well,
yeah.
Saves him some time and some effort.
Yeah, and I've had other weird things too. And because I grew up in Denver, and I used to hunt the Rockies.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy John, I remember hunting one afternoon. We're on an old logging road, and 20 yards in front of me, this doe just standing there broadside. I drilled her. I mean, that arrow went through her, and she left a blood trail you could snorkel through. It was
right.
It was thick, you know. But we gave it about 20 or 30 minutes so she could bleed out. we followed this blood trail and her tracks, and then all of a sudden it's just gone, like gone, nothing. She's gone. There's no more blood, and stuff like that's happened to me a few times actually. Just really weird. Where could it have gone? You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It actually happened to me with a buck one time. I cracked a 6-pointer and I hit him hard, dude. You know, and he took off. It was a long shot, so he ran for a bit, but you know, so I gave him a few minutes, and I got out of my tree stand, and you know, I started following the blood trail. And like you had said with that doe, you cracked her good. You know, no way. You know, just all you had to do was give her time. She would have bled out. You know, like this buck. You know, I hit him flush in the lungs with a 300 Weatherby mag. You know, there's no way he was living through that. You know, with that freaking lung shot the way it was. But you know, we went and looked, and this is in the same area where I had my sightings and all the activity, and he was gone, just gone. You know, so yeah, I can't prove it, but you know, maybe one of these things picked them up, took them off, took off with them. Who knows? I think they do that more than people think.
I do too. I do too. And you know, just a little over a year ago, I didn't believe in these things. And
I know. Oh, I know. Yep. But it doesn't take much for one to become a believer.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
It's just, one experience is all it takes. You know, one experience. So you mentioned 3 different sets of tracks in that particular area. Would the little one you mentioned, would that be one of the pictures you sent me, that real small one?
Oh yeah, probably. I think I sent you all of them.
Yeah, you did. They're all very impressive. They're definitely the real deal. That's for sure.
I didn't think about
one
casting
of them is really
either,
deep.
Yeah,
heavy.
The big one is super deep.
Super deep. I couldn't believe how deep it was. And next to your foot, it just I think you used your foot for scale on that one.
Oh yeah, that would be the one that was that was the one that I saw. That was the one that I saw.
Okay. Now, but damn, it might have been that. Then again, it wasn't sand, so maybe, you know, not quite as heavy as I'm thinking. But damn, it sure looked pretty freaking deep to me, man. Wow.
Well, and it was dry that day too, so it hadn't rained for a few days at least. It may have been a little mushy, but my foot didn't. I couldn't make a footprint like that.
You couldn't make one, right? Exactly.
No.
Well, you got to think about it. Even if this thing, like you said, was a juvenile or an adolescent, it doesn't mean they're not. They're still. It doesn't mean they're not massive.
Oh no.
You know.
I think their body mass is double ours. I think the muscle they carry around. I mean, you look at it. You know, and I'm not even sure if they're really. I don't know if they're a primate or if they're a this or that or whatever. All I know is that they're they're big and strong and scary.
And fast.
Yeah.
You know.
From what I've heard.
You know, I tell people, you know, when I tell people about my first encounter with that juvenile, you know, people say, oh, well, geez, he's only 5 foot. I mean, you know, and they'll ask me how much you weigh, and I'll say, well, I think he weighed about $190, maybe 200 pounds, and this thing was 5 feet at the most. I don't think people understand how big, how jacked that is for 5 foot. 200 pounds at 5 foot.
200 pounds at 5. That's a Jay Cutler. That's a big dude.
They're a Lee Priest. I mean, that's big.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's good size. You know, and people just don't get that. They just don't get that. You know.
Yeah, and they got them Tom Platt's legs too. They got those big, massive thighs on them.
Yep. And those hips, man. Damn. Just big block of a creature. I mean, they're very well. They are. It is a very disturbing thing to look at. At the same time, it's very impressive. They're made for that environment and for their environment, and that's all there is to it. And that's why they're masters of it. Complete masters of their environment.
Yep.
Yeah. You know. I mean,
I remember the first time I told this story, I was still a wreck. I'm pretty relaxed with it now because I've been able to hook up with you guys and talk to
Yeah.
people that aren't jerks.
Right.
People that have been there and understand it and don't, aren't critical and stuff.
Yeah, man. People are, people can be very ignorant, man. I mean, like, it's like perfect example, you guys, when we talked to Israel the other night about the tracks. People don't understand when something leaves the track, that is a sign of a living creature.
Yeah.
Yes, like he said, you can easily tell the difference between something real and something man-made.
Yeah.
But something real, I mean, that's kind of a living animal or creature or whatever you want to call these things. We don't know exactly what they are yet, but it's a sign of a living thing, a living being. People just don't get that. They want the body, they want this, they want that, but that's a whole nother discussion in itself for some other time. But
yeah, well,
no, I
one
mean,
way or another, I hope it comes to light. I wish the powers that be would just let people know what they are and to
me too.
be aware, because it's it really it wrecks a lot of people.
It does,
Screws them
and
up.
it does, and like we've all talked about this. Jay, you and I talked about this 2 nights ago. I mean,
Yep.
these things they get very extremely territorial, and these things, when they don't want you in their area, they're going to let you know. And for people that aren't familiar with this field, for them to go into an area where these things are at and not be weary, that makes for a very dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Especially, with
Absolutely.
them not knowing what they're doing,
Right.
not knowing what to do and what not to do. Makes for a very dangerous situation. I mean, after all, let's face it, they are apex predators, and that's what a lot of people fail to realize,
Well, yeah. I mean, they've found bow hunters in national parks 40 feet up in trees ripped apart.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
It's no joke.
It's no joke. I was telling J.R. a story, what was it, a couple days ago, Jay, about what my buddy Big Chris told me about that hunter of Manitoba in the 20s.
Yeah, man.
Well, this you're gonna get a kick out of this one, Shawn. He was a native Mohawk hunter, and it was on the Manitoba-Ontario border, and he was out hunting, and this thing came out of nowhere. This Sasquatch, massive, and he got scared. Didn't know what else to do. Pointed the gun at it. I don't know. He, don't know if he was gonna let off a shot or what, but this thing got to him a lot, much quicker than he could do what he wanted to do with that weapon. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Ripped the weapon out of his hands, picks the guy up, throws him against the tree, knocks him unconscious. Okay. When he comes to, he wakes up. He looks to his right-hand side. The rifle snapped in half. The creature's gone. Okay.
Damn.
And I think it was Jay, 3 weeks later, he was out hunting again, and whether, I'm sure he was scared shitless, but back then, times were different. You had to provide for your family, whether you were scared or not.
Right.
He's out again. Well, the same one comes out and running out of nowhere, picks him up again, throws the gun out of his hand, throws him against the tree. Again, this time, didn't throw him against the tree hard enough to knock him unconscious. But from the way this old man told my buddy the story, this thing looked at him, got within inches of his face. And the look he got from him was, I know this is going to sound crazy and kind of wooish, so don't take me the wrong way, but the way that guy describes it is this thing looked at him like, okay, we're good to go now. Just don't ever point a weapon at me again, and we'll be okay.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a pretty wild story. I get a kick out of it every time he tells me that story. I just get a kick out of it because the thing, obviously wasn't happy the first time that guy pointed the rifle at. Wakes up with it snapped in half next to him, and talk about the power that would take. Snap a rifle in half. Jesus.
That sounds like my kind of luck, man. I'd go back out there in the woods and there the same one would be. Oh my God.
Right, yeah. There's J.R. Kitchen. Let's get him.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's no way. Oh,
Well, hopefully, dude, when I head down there in a couple of weeks, we don't run into that problem.
I don't think so.
No, I think we'll be all right.
We're gonna we're gonna befriend them and gift giving and things like
Oh,
that.
shit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. We're gonna start up a gifting stump.
Take a flute
What's
and some
that?
chocolate donuts.
We're gonna
You're
start up.
right.
We're gonna start up a gifting stump.
Get the gifting tree.
Yeah. Apples and flowers and cracker jacks,
Oh
play
yeah,
cards and all sorts of cool stuff.
shit. We'll throw in an Easter basket, even though it's a little early. But yeah, let's go a little easy. Let's go a little easy on the moves tonight. We can save that for another night. That's hilarious. But yeah, Shawn. But man, that's a pretty friggin' God. I gotta watch the language. That's a pretty disturbing encounter, man. I J.R. and I both have had experience with these things, and we know how hard it is, man. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Not an easy thing at all. Now I know you had something else you wanted to add, since we're I've taken this show to the next level where we're going to discuss different kinds of cryptids and stuff. I know we don't really have much time left, but you want to go into that story you were just talking about a few minutes before we started recording?
Yeah, sure. And I had not thought about this for years and years and years, but
Yeah.
this, seeing a Bigfoot and kind of looking at cryptids and stuff like that made me remember. I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and the guy that raised me, his parents had a cabin up in the mountains, just a big, nice A-frame that sat on the edge of a hill, on the edge of a mountain.
Yep.
And one afternoon, we went out there for the weekend, and anyway, I went down by myself and just started going down the mountain. I don't know how far I went, but far enough away that I couldn't see the cabin or anything like that. And I found this rock outcropping, and I climbed up on top of this thing, and I got a good view of the bowl down below me. It went down quite a ways, and then it kind of bowled out. Anyway, I'm sitting up on top of these rocks, and all of a sudden this giant, what I thought was a glider, just comes gliding over the top of my head and just kept on going and going and going until it was out of sight. I sat and watched that thing forever, but it didn't look like a normal glider or an airplane or anything like that. It had about a 25-foot wingspan, I would say, and it looked like a hawk. It had the colors of a red-tailed hawk.
Okay.
Never really thought much about. I really at that point I put it in my head that it must have been a glider. That's the only logical explanation. Somebody painted a glider to look just like a bird.
Right.
And that's what I saw. Because
but now that you remember back,
it couldn't have. There's no way it could have been.
Right. Exactly.
You can't take those gliders up in the mountains. You don't do that. You'd have to be insane. Plus, it was flying really low, really low.
Right.
It wasn't that high above me.
Right.
That'd be super dangerous for anybody to try to do. And
absolutely.
I don't know what it was to this day. It could have been something. I really don't know what it was. And
right. No, I got you.
After seeing a Bigfoot and having some other really weird experiences in my life with other paranormal and stuff that I kind of put away. I don't like to think about it a lot, but there's other stuff out there, man. There just is.
That's all there is to it. There is. I mean, us here, we're all Sasquatch investigators. In my opinion, we got to keep our minds open. There's other stuff out there, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
If there's these Sasquatch creatures, why can't there be other things? And
right.
to be honest with you, the Native Americans for thousands of years have talked about these thunderbirds just as much as the Sasquatch.
Right.
You look at the totems, you'll see ones with the Sasquatches on them, and you'll see ones with the birds. You know, I've heard a couple different descriptions. You know, some that look like a condor, some that look like a hawk. You know, hear different things about them. But I'm actually gonna, you know what? I'm gonna look more into that, and maybe on our next one of these next episodes, we'll get into it a little more. And, I'll talk about the information I find out on it, because that to be honest with you, man, that really interests me. I think that's pretty wild. That's definitely pretty wild.
I'd like to
Now,
learn
did
more
this
about
thing?
it
Did you feel
myself.
threatened? Did you feel threatened at all by this thing?
No. It just went right over my head and just kept on gliding down the mountain.
Minding its own business.
Yeah, basically. And like I said, I thought it's got to be an airplane of some sort. There's no way this is a bird, but it sure looks like a bird.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting, man. That's really, really, really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, shit, Shawn, thanks for coming on, man. I mean,
oh, sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Awesome. I always love listening to your stuff. Like I said, for those of you who don't know Shawn's a good friend of ours. He's one of the hosts on Notes in the Field. You'll be hearing him a lot more with J.R. and I on this show, actually. Great guy, knows his stuff. He's more than willing to answer questions from anybody, just like J.R. and I. Shawn, what do you got for any last-minute advice?
Don't go alone if you can. I mean, really try to take somebody with you. I've been listening to a lot of different stories where people come up missing and stuff, and never seems to happen when there's two people. But when you're alone, you run the risk of getting snatched by one of these things.
I agree. Snatched by one of these things or by something else.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. I mean, it's the truth. But
I'd say arm yourself for sure. Get a good gun and try not to go alone.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. I know a lot of people disagree with going out there armed, but I know, like you two, I was raised to always go in the woods with at least a side piece. At least a side piece. Granted, a lot of people say, if they see a rifle on your shoulder or a shotgun or whatever, you're not going to see them because they know what they do. But if you can conceal a side piece so they can't see it, that's a different story. You just got to make sure that side piece is big enough to be able to do a little bit of damage.
Oh yeah, I carry a Glock 20. It's a 10 millimeter.
10 mil. Yep. That'll do the trick.
220 grain hardened lead.
Yep.
From Underwood. Underwood makes some fantastic ammunition. This stuff. The reason I went with this particular gun is because I've got 15 in the mag, 1 in the tube, and a spare mag in my pocket. So I can unload this thing really fast into something's chest and get the hell out of there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a Ruger Red Hawk that I bring, a 44 mag Red Hawk that I carry with me most of the time. Hard hitter, So just six shot, but it throws some friggin' velocity and some hitting power out there, So
what's the recoil on that like?
It's pretty heavy.
Pretty stout, yeah. That's
it's pretty stout.
I went with this is because I can shoot it just like my 9. I carry my concealed carry gun is a Glock 19 9 millimeter, and I can stay on target even with the heavy loads. It's a little bit more snappy, but I'm consistent and I'm on target. So that's another big plus about I can't say anything bad about this gun. It's really a great gun.
Don't get me wrong. The Red Hawk's a really well made weapon, and it's heavy for it's very heavy, so the recoil isn't as bad as you would think. I can still lay L6 where I want them if I needed to. You know what I mean? So it's not the recoil isn't bad to the point where I'm going to be off target if I needed to unload on one of these things. But it's the 44 mag. Let's face it, there's going to be a little bit of a recoil. So. But Shawn, thanks again, man. How can people reach you if they have any questions?
My email is nebraskajrg@gmail.com. I'm in the Facebook group. You can email me or you can message me on the Facebook Messenger. or just, any way you want through there. And if anybody's in my area, if you hear this and you want to check out some stuff, go down to my hunting area and look at all this crazy stuff. I'd be happy to take you.
Awesome. And I'll
Or if
mention
anybody
Shawn
has something they would like me to come check out, I'd like to go up. I know there's other people that have seen them here. I've talked to them. I just
sure.
need to get out and
and do it.
Check it out. Yeah.
Bring them out. Yeah. And I'll mention Shawn is actually he's also an administrator of the new group I've got with this related to this show too. So feel free to contact him through there also. But yeah, thanks again, Shawn. And as far as you go, JR, any last thoughts, man?
No, man, that's pretty much it. Pretty self-explanatory. Just be safe out there.
Yep.
Don't do anything stupid.
Banging on trees, screaming.
Banging on trees, whooping.
Yeah. Don't try to give them little gifts and stupid things like that.
Feed them and shit.
These things are not cuddly, Yeah. I think once anybody really smells one, they're probably not going to want to pet it. And that's it, man.
Or sees one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. If anybody's got anything over here in the southeast, I'm in the mountains of western North Carolina. It's jrgsoutheast.dirjk@aol.com. Contact me for all your Sasquatch needs in western North Carolina. Thank you so much.
That's right. And JR is actually he's an administrator of the new On the Trail group too, so feel free to get a hold of us through there. Also, if you're interested in coming on this show with us. And lastly, I got to go with my guys here. They were right on the money with all the info. Don't go out alone. I know we're all guilty of it, for sure. If you do feel the need, make sure you let someone know. I know J.R. and I are pretty consistent about it. Even with you, Shawn, we all let each other know when we go out. We let each other know when we come back in. Just simple, safe practices like that can save your life. Don't piss these things off. Same thing the guy said. Don't point a weapon at him unless your life is in danger, because chances are, if there's one there, there's another. So just be safe, be wary, and realize there's more out there than we think. Including, more out there. When I say that, I mean there's more out there than just these creatures. There's I don't think we even hit the tip of the iceberg yet. So just be careful out there. Like these guys said, any one of us are more than happy to answer any questions. JR and I are actually in the same state. I am in eastern North Carolina. He is in the western part of the state. I'm actually heading his way in a couple weeks. We're going to be doing an outing for a couple days. We'll keep you updated on that. Hopefully we can catch a sighting of one of these things. Hopefully get something on film or get some good evidence. And once again, Shawn, thank you. And you guys can, anyone out there with questions as far as reaching me, you can reach me at either one of my two email addresses. I've got my JRG email address on the JRG side of things. That would be jrg.executive.dirjf@gmail.com. And I've got, if you're interested in coming on this show as a witness, reach me at onthetrail.jf@gmail.com. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, JR. It's been a pleasure as usual. And guys, for the listeners out there, I'll have this posted. We'll let Audra work her magic. We've got a few additions we're going to add into the intro music and stuff, so you'll be surprised. So anyway, just feel free to get in touch with us anytime you want, even if you're not part of any of our related groups. You have any questions at all, feel free to contact us. We're here to help. If you have a problem with these things, we're here to help. Don't be afraid to get in touch with us. So, but this has been On the Trail, The Search for Living Legends, Episode 2 with witness Shawn Wilson. Hope everyone has a great Christmas. Happy Yule, Happy Christmas, whatever it is you practice. I hope it's happy. So, everyone have a good night, and we will get you another episode after the holiday. And thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you both. You know what I do. So
Thank you, Shawn.
Hey, no problem, JR.
Thank you so much, Shawn. And like I said, you guys will be hearing Shawn more on here with J.R. and I once after the new year comes around. But have a good night, guys. Thanks again, Shawn. Appreciate it. JR, thank you to you, sir, too. I appreciate it. Looking forward to making it out your way, man, in a couple weeks. Can't freaking wait.
Thank you, my friend.
We'll stir these things up, see if we can get a good, see if we can get them riled up a little bit.
I think
Take apples and donuts.
Exactly. Maybe a bouquet of flowers too.
Yes, flowers.
But for the newcomer to the field, I don't recommend trying to get them riled up. JR and I, and Shawn included, we're all a little on the crazy side. So
that's right.
we're